Gina died, I went to work the next day and everybody was coming up and saying, what can I do? How can I help? And we'd given a lot of thought over the next couple of days to what Gina would like and what was her spirituality and what was her bent. And she was very inclined towards Eastern religion and Eastern spirituality, and so I was trying to think of something that might fit for Gina and would also get everybody, when they said, what can I do? I could say, do this. So I remembered my nieces making origami, and I thought, origami, cranes, let's make some cranes. So when everybody said, what can I do? I said, let's make cranes. I looked up the cranes that mean loyalty and peace, and there's actually a national crane making conference that's going on for conservation and to save the earth, and Gina was totally into green. Like I told people before, her only problem with the cranes would be, how are we going to recycle them? So people are taking them home to recycle them. So I thought it was a perfect idea for Gina. The tradition is 1,000 cranes, and although in the East it's typically done to grant a wish or for good luck, in the West, we've sort of borrowed it, and there's a theory that the birds will help carry you to your next place. People can write messages on them, and those messages can travel with you. And it's a lovely remembrance that people can take with them. We put boxes around the hospital. They were in the medical staff office. They were in the operating room. They did a bunch of them in labor and delivery. People brought them home. They did them with their children. As I was going through them, I found some really interesting cranes. I'd said, if there's something about Gina that you think about, make it. And so someone made a crane out of a call schedule. Someone made cranes out of the wrapper for the size gloves that Gina wore. Somebody made it out of a postpartum order sheet, the front page of the newspaper for where she lived, an iPhone ad. Some of them I didn't understand, and they were probably just a personal message from whoever made that crane to Gina. And then, of course, Dr. Gittens, who used to talk to her about the New York Times, asked them to pull a number of covers that fit what she described Gina, which they did a lovely job of.
Well, Gina and I had been talking about varying articles in the New York Times Magazine, and we both shared a love for that. So I have a friend that works for the New York Times, and I contacted him and asked him if he had any old paper copies of the New York Times Magazine, because I wanted to fold them into the cranes. And he passed that information on to varying people in the New York Times management. And I eventually got a response, and they said, you can come to our warehouse and take whatever you'd like. And then I got a response back that said that they would send them to me because they knew that time was of the essence. But most importantly, when we told them about Gina, it seems that they have picked ones that were really important. The moral life of babies, why women's rights are the most important issue of our times.
And they were a lovely decoration, and they gave us all something to do. The residents would text me and say, hey, we're all sitting on labor and delivery making cranes and telling stories about Gina. And while you learned to do it, you thought about Gina. And when you couldn't do it, you thought about Gina. And so it was a great way for everybody to participate, and in her memorial service, and a great way for everybody to have a chance to sort of think about her and process their own Gina feelings.